Welcome to All of This and More. I'm so glad you're joining us for part two of my conversation with Bettina Byrd-Giles, a professional interculturalist, community activist, and someone who lives and breathes the idea of belonging through art. If you caught part one, Bettina and I explored how art shapes our sense of home and connection, whether that's through family traditions, museum visits, or creating spaces for new voices in our communities. We talked about how art can be both a sanctuary and a bridge, helping us feel seen and inviting others to belong. In the second part of our conversation, we discuss how art weaves its way through everyday life and parenting. Bettina shares stories about raising her son with the arts, taking him to plays, museums, and even making sure he's exposed to the Mona Lisa in Paris. She reflects on how music and dance filled their home and how those experiences, even if sometimes met with resistance, planted seeds of appreciation and understanding that can last a lifetime. Bettina's insights remind us that belonging isn't just about fitting in, it's about being able to show up as our full selves, to express our histories and cultures, and to pass those gifts on to the next generation. She opens up about the complexities of identity, showing how art can help us process, heal, and connect in times of change and challenge. If you're a parent, an artist, or someone searching for your own sense of place, I hope this conversation inspires you to notice the art in your life and the ways it helps you and those around you belong. Welcome to All of This and More. I'm excited to talk to Bettina Byrd-Giles about belonging through art. It's good to see you, Bettina. Will you tell us a little bit about you for those who may not be familiar with you and your work?
I'm a professional interculturalist, which means I facilitate cross-cultural interaction. I'm a tennis mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, and community activist.
Let's see. So, how do ideas connected to belonging through art and whatever that phrase means to you work their way into your role as a mother? You've mentioned it already a little bit, but I'd love to hear more if you'd like to share.
I'm chuckling to myself because the last time the Alvin Ailey company came to Birmingham, my son asked me not to take him. He says, "Mom, you have exposed me to the arts, live stage plays, dance." He says, "But I'm just not interested in it." And I was just like, no, this cannot be. One of my friends said she thought it was interesting that he felt comfortable being honest with me and saying, hey, I don't want to go to any of these productions anymore. So I feel that I took James to every possible production that I could and type of production. His elementary school and his preschool were on the south side of Birmingham, walking distance from the Alice Stevens Center in Birmingham. The kids were invited to the dress rehearsals. They were able to walk, so they wouldn't have to get a bus, pay extra. And so he was exposed quite a bit outside of us. But it's definitely something that I wanted for him. He played an instrument briefly because all of us, my dad plays saxophone, my mom plays piano, my brother and I played clarinet. And so he never took piano lessons. We took piano lessons. He never took piano lessons. And I felt badly about that. But we started playing tennis at 8, played year round. And we just didn't have as much time for the arts. As I said, I felt really bad about that. But when he told me that he felt that he had been exposed to it, and if he was an adult, if his partner wants to go see something, he has been exposed. And I don't know why I'm thinking about this. At the Alice Stevens Center, they had this group, and I think it's called Bandaloop, where the production was on the outside of the building, and you sat in the grass and had a picnic, and the kids could run around. And so there were a lot of different ways that or different venues in which he was exposed to the arts. We definitely took him to museums so that he could see visual art. When he went to Paris, he called me on is it WhatsApp? I think. Yeah, called me on WhatsApp and he says, "Hey," he said, "people keep knocking me down because I'm trying to look at this lady that's smiling." And so he was looking at the Mona Lisa. He just said it was crowded. And I know that his teacher had given them information ahead of time because I know the teacher really well. And she runs some of the projects through Bare Hands Gallery. So I know that she informed them of what they were going to see. And so I just thought that was funny. I'm like, are you talking about the Mona Lisa? I've never seen the Mona Lisa in person. But you're over there. And they went to about 5 galleries. So he's been exposed because I think that's important. He knows about the murals in Inslee. He's taken pictures in front of the murals. He's done everything. So it was definitely part of my parenting because it was part of my parents' parenting. And I have calmed down and cut back on trying to make him go to things with me.
What about music? Like music that y'all listen to at home or in the car, or like where's some crossover in your musical taste? And where has he been like, I don't like that, Mom. You may like that, but I don't like that.
You mean when he's not listening to whatever with his headphones on when we're in the car? We used to dance around the house to these songs that I really like. They're high energy, electronic music songs. And we used to just dance around the circle because I could take him to the playroom when I go to the Y, but sometimes I didn't feel like it, so to exercise at home. So we used to dance around the house and we like the same music. There's always music on in my car, but there's one song that he would request, and it's called Take a Look Around by Limp Bizkit. And it's a theme song from one of the Mission Impossible movies, either 1 or 2. And I'm preparing his song list for graduation party. And he's looking at the song list. He's, oh yeah, you got Take a Look Around. And so I thought that was interesting. And then he requested TNT by, can't think of the name of the group. TNT. Anyway, he requested the song. And that's from the classic, it's now classic rock, but it's from the hard rock phase of like when I was in high school. So I find that to be interesting. The same group did Hell's Bells and all kinds of things, and I don't know why I can't think of the name of it right now. So music was definitely something that we shared. My husband and I have various songs through our dating life that we listen to. And on Sundays at 11, we listen to an old school R&B station. And so James, it's all over the house. We have the radio on upstairs and downstairs. And so he doesn't have any choice. He used to go to church with my mom. My mom's a church musician. And so he was exposed to a lot of gospel music. More of the traditional gospel, not like the Kirk Franklins. My mom predates kind of those genres of gospel music at this point in time, contemporary gospel music. So she considers herself someone who plays the standards from the hymnals. And so that's what he's been exposed to from her.
I feel like I could talk to you about this for hours, but I'm going to ask one more question. And I know you said you have a complicated answer to it, so I'm excited to hear it. Which film would you recommend to people if they want to understand more about you, and why?
I said the answer was complicated because I don't think there's a single film. The Great Santini came up first because it's a military brat film. It's a military film told from the perspective of Pat Conroy in life as a military brat, but my dad was not like the Great Santini. My dad was like the MASH, and I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation. My dad was more like Hawkeye and his friends in MASH during the Korean War, but I was born during the Vietnam War. So we were in Japan during the Vietnam War. So it was pretty cool having friends that within your family, because you're moving around so much, so that's who you become closest to. I also think that the film Save the Last Dance describes my move to Birmingham, though I am not white. I was dancing and about to go on tour before we moved to Birmingham. And so Julia Stiles plays this character. Her mom is killed. She ends up moving in with her dad. It's a very different lifestyle. So we moved from Marin County, California, though we were on a military base. It was a very wealthy area. And when I started going to Birmingham City Schools, I showed up. I didn't have any supplies or anything. And I asked, "Where's the supply drawer?" They're like, "Did you bring any supplies?" Because everything was provided for us when we were in the Marin County schools. I had never had a Black teacher prior to that time. So Julia Stiles ends up going to a predominantly Black school. And then she ends up making friends with various people. I had some negative encounters with other women because of being light-skinned. And I had never had that kind of encounter when we were living in California, because we were in, as I said, Marin County, which didn't have, I think one Black family had moved in to Marin County, to Nevada, where we lived. And my mother was the first Black teacher. So we were just Black and didn't have the colorism issues that I faced when I came into a predominantly Black setting. So that was something that Julia Stiles, people were complaining because she had taken the best, most successful guy at the school. And so I ended up dating someone who was highly coveted. And so had run-ins with people. So there were a lot of parallels in that show. And I thought about the other day when my son had his last tennis match, Julia Stiles' mom was killed while she was trying to get to a performance. And I was rushing down Highway 280, for those who are listening that are not from Birmingham. It's always backed up. And at the time that the match, and this is the final, so this is the sectional, and my son's coach was calling because he said, "James is wondering where you are." And I was nowhere near the tennis courts, but I still got there in 10 minutes driving like a crazy person. And I was like, I'm going to end up like Julia Stiles' mother and getting into an accident trying to rush to get to this final. That's another film. And then they just had this film about the samurai, or a series on Netflix. And because of my hidden Japanese identity, when I say hidden, if somebody first meets me, they're not going to know that I have a Japanese identity. So understanding my hidden Japanese identity, I think those would help someone understand me a little bit better.
Thank you for your thoughtful answer. And I'm so glad that you made it to his match and didn't get in a wreck on Highway 280.
Yes. And there are many wrecks on Highway 280, so it's not unbelievable or unfathomable.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about belonging through art before we wrap up?
I think something that I didn't mention is that I wear a lot of wearable art. So I express myself through my jewelry, through my shirts. And I think that's another art form that I take for granted. And some of the clothes that I choose are definitely very artistic. So it's another way that some people belong and express themselves through art.
Yeah, I love that about you, and I think we need to have a separate conversation about that.
We have a lot of sub topics to talk about in our next conversation.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for joining me on all of this and more. And thanks to everyone who's listening or watching. Please visit allofthis.and-more.com to learn more about Bettina and her work. And I will add some links to some of the things she mentioned in our conversation also.
Thank you for including me. for helping me belong even more.
And thank you for helping me belong. I appreciate it.